A very, very beautiful morning to you. You're welcome to another exciting edition of Sports Personality on Atlantic Television Network. And of course, today's edition of the show promises to be another exciting one as we have a special sports personality on today's edition of the show. And no other than the man Carlos Alcaraz. And of course, you've been wondering, what has he done this time around? Alcaraz smashes fastest final at the Qatar Open. Did that, of course, in a very, very impressive fashion. And that's why we're going to take a look at, his life once again on the show, his career, and what he has, achieved already, in 2026. It's been an impressive start, for Alcaraz in 2026 season right there in tennis. And we'll take a look at all of that on today's edition of the show when we return from this break. Stay with us. We'll be right back. You're welcome back as the Sports Personality Show on Atlantic Television Network. We'll tell you, we'll be talking about, Carlos Alcaraz on the show this morning. And we have a lot, of course, to unravel about the man. And joining me to take a look at the life of Carlos Alcaraz this morning is tennis expert Kelechi Clifford. Good morning to you, Kelechi, and welcome to the show.
Yeah, good morning to you, Kingsley. Thanks for having me on the show today. It's a very important topic. I'm looking forward to it as well.
All right, let's quickly take a look at, the life of Carlos Alcaraz. We understand that Carlos Alcaraz was born on May 5th, 2003 in Palma, Mauritius, down there in Spain. He grew up in a tennis-oriented family. His father, Carlos Alcaraz Gonzalez, was a professional player turned coach. And he introduced Carlos to tennis when he was just 4 years old. Alcaraz showed natural talent early on, playing in junior competitions throughout Europe and earning sponsorship that helped him travel and train. At the age of 15, he moved to train under former French Open champion Juan Carlos, which accelerated his development. Kelechi, let's take a look at his early life, at this point. Taking a look at, the fact that, of course, he grew up in a family that loved tennis. How did his family, will you say, influence his early tennis development?
I would say his dad basically was the first coach for Carlos Alcaraz. When you coming into a family that is already used to a particular sport, or maybe a family that you're born into a family of sports, it's almost easy for you to just follow that pattern. And his dad was actually a good tennis player, and his dad, like I said, was his first coach. He instilled in him that discipline. His dad was able to invest in him and actually expose him to some of the tennis academy, like you just mentioned now. Being registered in Juan Carlos Ferrera's academy at that age is something that was beneficial to Carlos Alcaraz, and that really helped him. His dad actually did a whole lot of things for him that I was really, really impressed with. That I was running through how his dad was able to invest in Carlos Alcaraz at a very young age, and that really helped shape Carlos Alcaraz, not just to be successful today, but to be a better player. I saw some of the things that he actually did, and some of the players he was able to learn from at that very age. So the exposure, he talked about him being exposed at the academy, Palma, which was actually a tennis academy where he gained access to some of the best players in tennis, and that exposure really helped shaping him. And of course, we can also talk about the financial support and emotional support that the father actually did. It's a huge investment to bring up the money and actually invest in a child who actually loves sports. And not many children tend to be successful like their parents, but Carlos is just more than a success. He actually is doing well for himself right now, and that investment has actually paid off from the father, and we can actually be proud and say that the father can actually look at himself and say he's actually proud to raise a son who is doing so well in tennis, and that was really brilliant. And one thing I also admire from what he actually benefited from this investment from the dad, because the dad was able to actually hide him from the media attention he was getting at a very young age, because at some point he was becoming successful. So the dad really did well. I would say that the father is actually the person who shaped Carlos Alcaraz to become who he is today.
Impressive one. Carlos Alcaraz's family really did, of course, a great job, on the man when he was very young. And today, the man is one of the best, tennis players, you say at this point in time. But Kelechi, when you take a look at, the way his family guided him, and all of that, sometimes we look at how things, of course, are done here, in Africa at this point in time. We take a look at it when it has to do with long tennis globally. Africans, do not really have much, participants. I think the only African that we're all cheering at this point in time is the lady talking about Ons Jabeur, as a stand. But we don't really have much African players, playing long tennis, globally, as a stand. What do you think, could be the reason? Like the case of Carlos Alcaraz, he grew up in a family that loved tennis, and at the end of the day, they guided him, show him the right path, to follow. And today, is now a global star when it has to do with long tennis. But here in Africa, it's difficult for we to see someone really have a very, very impressive career, or let's say global career, when it has to do with long tennis. I just want to relate it to, here in Africa. Why is it that we find it difficult, of course, to produce long tennis players, possibly that could get maybe to the global, scene?
I can actually say you can only invest in what you love. If you're looking at Africa as a whole, Africa is not really a continent that invests so much in sports. We just pay attention to one or two sports, and some of them actually do well, apart from the football that everybody puts all their energy and mind to. But I would say lawn tennis, for a large part, is not really a sport that, if you're narrowing down now to Nigeria, it's not a sport that people really look into, people really invest in. If it's not really football, or maybe basketball, people are not really paying attention to it. And so that's one of the reasons why in the bigger stage, you cannot really find any African, apart from Onzebo, you just made mention of doing really well, or even the South African player too, who also plays tennis. So it's really difficult that much in Nigeria, or even in Africa as a whole. It's just some countries like Morocco, like Algeria, and the northern African part that are really invested in sports, and you can see the infrastructure that they're putting up, and it's really growing. But for this part of the world, which is Nigeria as a whole, lawn tennis is actually still a growing sport, and something needs to be done. I think it needs to be looked into, because if you look at some of the talents that Nigeria has produced in other sports, I believe it can actually also be done in lawn tennis. So we just need to find that passion for it. We need to love the sport. And when you love the sport, you can invest in it. But for now, I think that love and that passion is not really there when it comes to lawn tennis. And that's why we're where we are today in Africa.
Talking about parents encouraging their children, to go into a particular sport. I don't know, have you really, based on your assessment to say, have you really seen that here in Africa or maybe Nigeria to say?
I would say it's just a handful of parents who encourage their children to play sports. I think our parents always have this mentality that it has to be you going to school, it has to be school. School is actually the key to success. Education has always been the priority for most parents, and that's why it's usually not really encouraged to focus on sports for most parents, and that's why some of the talent that we have in this part of the world don't really go into some of these sports. And it's just a few of them who actually had success, like the Kano Wanko, the JJ Okochas, the Victor Osimhen, who actually had that passion and actually had the drive, and also had the support from parents and well-wishers to actually become successful in this sport. So it all depends on what the parents want. If parents actually take it upon themselves that, look, it doesn't always have to be education. Some kids are really talented in sport, and you need to encourage them. All they need is the encouragement. All they need is that financial and emotional support. And before you know what's happening, you can actually give birth to the next Novak Djokovic in Nigeria, or Ghana, or South Africa, as the case may be. So it's all about the parents just giving them the opportunity, and most parents don't really do that, and you can't really blame them, because of course education is very, very important, but sport is also as important as education as well.
All right, we'll see how it goes. Good, early life for the man Carlos Alcaraz, down there, was being given the opportunity, by his parents, and today he's doing great things. And we just hope that here in Africa, parents will also, give their kids that opportunity, maybe to go into any sports, maybe they have passion for, at the end of the day, because if they do so, I believe it will go a long way in making sure that we have a lot of talent down here, or produce a lot of talent down here in Nigeria. But Kelechi, do you think with the fact that parents do not really, of course, allow their children some time, of course, to maybe take up a particular sport for themselves, do you think it has also reduced the number of talents we're supposed to maybe produce as a country, talking about Nigeria?
It's all part of it. You can actually, it's one thing to have a talent, another thing to have the opportunity to showcase yourself, and that is just one side of it. Nigeria as a whole, I think the sporting sector is actually a sector that needs to be invested in. The federal government has to do more. We need to have, not just having talent, now you need to have the infrastructure, you need to have the structures, you need to have the equipment to work with this talent, because it's not just about having talent. Now, do we have the stadiums, do we have the academies to actually encourage these kids to be run? And most times, it's only when it comes to the university games where we tend to have some of these people showcasing their talent. The university games, which is actually something that I'm really impressed with, because some of this talent gets harnessed and discovered. But it's not just enough. I think the parents need to be involved. The federal government needs to start building facilities. They need to start looking into encouraging them as well. So I think as a unit, everything has, all hands has to be on deck, not just the parent. The federal government needs to do something as well. And I believe that if they actually play their role, then we can actually start seeing good talents showcasing themselves and also representing Nigeria or even Africa as a whole when it comes to tennis.
All right, let's quickly, of course, take a look at the junior career of Carlos Alcaraz. His first international competition, we understand, was at the age of 10. Alcaraz began competing internationally very young. At about 10 years old, he played in the Under-10 World Championship in Croatia, reaching the final, a sign of early promise against top players from around the world. About Bolat's support and exposure, Alcaraz also, around the age of 10, joined the Babolat Junior program, which provided sponsorship backing as he continued to compete. Success on his European junior circuit in 2015 and 16. Rafael Nadal Tour Masters won the Under-12 division in 2015 and captured the Under-14 title in 2016. That was Alcaraz, of course, putting up such an impressive one. Now, these wins mark him as one of Spain's top juniors early on. And in 2017, talking about him being as a rising star at Under-14 level, he won the SIV Tiger International. Of course, was really an impressive one, and captured the Babolat's Cup as well. Represented Spain in strong team performances, helping them to retire in the European Summer Cup and runner-up at the ITF World Junior Tennis Final. Now, this result showed his growing dominance among European junior players, and of course, the band was very fantastic as at then. But let's taking a look at his junior career. How did his playing style, talking about the man Carlos Alcaraz, how did they evolve during his junior years?
Okay, I'll start by saying that Carlos is a very special player. If you're someone who loves tennis, who watches tennis, you would love Carlos Alcaraz because of the way he plays. He's not just someone who is just successful by luck. He actually earns every point that he actually plays in. And I think when I look at Carlos Alcaraz, I look at Rafael Nadal, because these are players who every point matters. And now let's talk about his style of play. It's something that I really love about him. He's very, very aggressive. He's got that aggressive forehand, and he's got that power. He doesn't really look as muscular as you'd expect him to look, but when he actually plays with the forehand, there's just so much power on it, and it's something that I really love about him. And he's got that heavy top spin in his style of play. And of course, his approach on the net is something that's also beautiful to watch. When he comes to the net, he knows what to do. He's not just someone who's just guessing what to do with the ball. He's very, very direct, and he's very, very intelligent. And of course, the most important thing that is actually the weapon that he uses to finish off players is that drop shot, which is something that is really incredible. I don't think there's any tennis player started watching tennis that can actually do a very successful drop shot like Saka. From nowhere, he just brings it up, and that is one extra thing that makes him stand out among his opponents or his rivals like Yannick Sinner and Alexander Zverev. That drop shot is something that makes him stand. He does it really better than anyone else, and that's what he actually uses to actually finish off players. And I love the way he plays on the baseline. I think he's just got so much things in ingredients in his style of play, and that's what really makes him stand out. He's someone who thinks out of the box. He's not just a very direct player. He's unpredictable. Even though that drop shot is something that you always expect him to do at some point in the game, but you don't really know what to expect from him at any point in time. He doesn't give up. He chases every point. He's just a very complete player, and that's really what, if you want to compare him with Yannick Sinner, that's what really makes him stand out over Yannick Sinner. He can actually rise from the ruins. We've seen him actually bring something out of nothing. We've seen him actually going out of the competition, but from nowhere he finds a way to actually win, and that's really what makes him an incredible player to watch.
You know, since talking about his junior career, were there particular coaches or mentors you would say who had a significant impact on his junior development?
Yeah, absolutely. Like you talked about him actually registering at 15 age in Juan Carlos Ferrera's academy. That was actually incredible because Juan Carlos was actually someone who had a successful career in tennis as well. And you know that he's also very, very much liked by and admired by Rafael Nadal. He's someone who actually got involved in he just really got exposed to some of the best tennis players out there. And that was one thing that actually helped him. You know, when you rub minds with the best, you tend to be the best. And at a very young age, he was already exposed to Carlos Ferreira, Rafael Nadal, and even Roger Federer. Some of these players actually coming to train in some of this academy, also actually coming to coach these players, and he was also one of the players who benefited from being coached by Rafael Nadal. Also, that academy actually groomed him to become a better player. So that exposure really helped him, and he's not just someone who just became successful. Some of the things he actually does, he actually was trained by the very best in the business, and that's really what helped him be a great player today.
And you know, you just mentioned the likes of Rafael Nadal and the rest of them. You know, talking about Carlos Alcaraz, you know, at this point in time, do you see him, of course, you know, putting up any of the play style, you know, some of the legends, you know, you mentioned, especially the man, Rafael Nadal, who he has always made reference of, you know, on so many occasions?
I believe he's already on course to actually achieving great things. He has already gotten about 7 Grand Slams, if I'm not mistaken. He's won a Grand Slam in all the competition. He's already on path to actually achieving so many great things, and he's already at least been to an Olympic final. So it's actually the start of something new. Carlos Alcaraz can only get better, and since from the beginning when he started coming to limelight, we always knew that he was actually not just going to be a one-season wonder. He's someone who's very consistent. Even with the injuries he's actually struggled with, even when he has some setbacks. But I think when we put him and Rafael Nadal together, one thing that I admire about the both of them is that they're very good at play, and they play in the same fashion, and they're all from the same place, Spain. So it's actually something that can actually be like Rafael Nadal has actually produced himself in Carlos Alcaraz.
Yeah.
And Carlos Alcaraz now is someone who is a very complete player. He doesn't just play like Nadal. You can also see glimpses of Roger Federer inside of him. You can also see glimpses of Novak Djokovic inside of him. So he can actually show you different versions of the 3 best players in the world of tennis. And that's just really one thing that you have to admire about Carlos Alcaraz.
And you know, let's you know, go back a bit, you know, to where he came from, that's Spain. I don't know what you make of it. You think the Spanish, they really have that, probably, how will I put it now, you know, talking about them being very good when it has to do with tennis. You just mentioned some of them, likes of, you know, Rafael Nadal. We've always seen, you know, good tennis players coming from, you know, Spain. What do you make of Spain? And the fact that, you know, they always have that ability to produce good tennis players.
Yeah, I would say Spain, when it comes to tennis, they've actually produced one of the good tennis players. I think it's because they have that passion for it, and
Okay.
maybe they're also very used to the surface playing in clay, and that's why they're mostly successful. Rafael Nadal has a record that I think might go on for the next 100 years. How successful he was in Roland Garros, and some of the good names that they've also produced as well, and even in present. So we have Alejandro Davidovich. We also have Juan Mona. We've got so many good tennis players from Spain too, not just Carlos Alcaraz, and they've been really consistent. Although Carlos is the most consistent of all of them,
Yeah.
and even the ones who are actually retiring, Batista Agot, also from Spain, and it's actually Pedro Martinez. These are actually Spanish players who actually also had a good career, even though it wasn't as successful as the likes of Rafael Nadal. But Spain always produces good tennis players, and they're just very good at it. Just like Spain, also in the football side of it, they also have good football players as well. So Spain, actually in tennis, they've actually also selected the very best or groomed the very best.
Impressive one, and of course look forward to see how the man continue to evolve. It's really been an impressive one, talking about Carlos Alcaraz, how he started tennis, for coming from a family that love the sport tennis, and also being mentored by the very best. It's really been a very impressive run for him. We just hope he continue, of course, to keep up the momentum. We'll talk about his professional career and all that he has achieved so far when we return from this short break. Stay with us, we'll be right back. Yeah, welcome back. It's the Sports Personality Show on Atlantic Television Network, and of course, we've been talking about one man who knows what it takes, to play tennis, at the moment, and that's Carlos Alcaraz. It's been an impressive start for him this season, winning the Australian Open and the Qatar Open as well. Promises to be an exciting season. That's why we have to take a look at, of course, the impressive record we saw down there at the Qatar Open for him. But before we look at that, let's talk about his professional career. As Alcaraz began playing professional tournaments in 2018 at the age of 14, but made his ATP Tour debut in February 2020 at the Rio Open at the age of 16, where he won his first match against fellow Spaniard Albert Ramos Vinolas. In 2021, he became the youngest player in the Australian Open main draw, advancing to the second round, and later that year won his first ATP title at Oman, becoming the youngest title winner on tour since 2008. And talking about that, of course, impressive performance, breakthrough in 2022. 2022 was his breakthrough season. He won the ATP titles in Rio de Janeiro and Miami, made history at the Madrid Open, becoming the first player to defeat Rafael Nadal and Novak Djokovic at the same clay courts event en route to the title. Captured his first Grand Slam at the US Open, defeating Casper Ruud to become the youngest men's world #1 in ATP history at the age of 19. That was impressive. I have to hold it there so I can bring Kelechi in at this point in time. What do you make of his impressive stats, talking about his professional level in tennis?
I would say he actually started pretty well. We all thought that he was actually going to struggle because we've actually seen so many players rise to the occasion, and all of a sudden you can't find them anywhere. But this is 4 years down the line now since playing on the toppest level, and he's actually maintained that consistency. And winning that first Grand Slam against Casper Ruud was like the start of something new. Casper Ruud also had a good season that year. Casper Ruud actually was en route to the final, played one of the best tennis, but somehow I think in the US Open it was a different surface for Carlos Alcaraz, but yet he still found a way to defeat Casper Ruud, and that was really like the first Grand Slam, and many more to come. He's already got 7 now, and so I was really impressed with how he actually had some successes. You also talked about the Madrid Open where he defeated Rafael Nadal and Novak Djokovic and route to it, which was actually also impressive. Not many people can actually defeat those two players in one competition and actually go on to win it. And he actually did that at a very young age. And so these are no flukes. This is someone who means business. This is someone who actually from the get-go shows you that he's here to stay. And he's actually been impressive so far. And he's really been consistent ever since he actually tasted success at a very big stage.
And of course, talking about him, attaining that world #1 status at the age of 19, what do you make of such an impressive feat for him at that very age, with the fact that of course he didn't actually maybe being carried away by that success up to this moment. He's still pushing and still currently the world #1. What do you make of the feats, and with the fact that even at the fact that he achieved such, he was still of course still consistent and still keeping focus?
I think it all boils down to what we just first talked about, how he was groomed by his father. I think his father actually instilled in him that spirit of humility and discipline to not get carried away. He, like I said, shrugged him off from the media attention, because at a very young age, at 19, being the world #1 is actually something that would get into your head if you're not careful. At 19, you're still young, you still have a long way to go, but he still carried on from there. And that's one thing I really admire about him. You see, he had that humility inside of him. Even when he's winning, even when he's doing so well for himself, he always has the ability to still want to push for more. He doesn't really relax or get carried away from everything he's achieved. And so that was actually impressive at 19, being world #1, winning a Grand Slam so early on and carrying on from there. I think at this point in time, since 2022, he has at least won a Grand Slam. And this is 2026, he's already gotten the first Grand Slam. And so consistency is what you can actually use to describe Carlos Alcaraz, and humility as well. Is someone who's actually still humble despite all he has achieved so far.
Impressive one, of course, for the man Carlos Alcaraz. And let's talk about his Grand Slam success at this point in time. Alcaraz has won multiple Grand Slam single titles across all major events, showcasing his versatility and dominance. And won, of course, the US Open in 2022, and was an impressive one for him. We saw, of course, that Wimbledon, at 2023 as well, for the man. They talk about the French Open as well. He also won the Australian Open this year. And Kelechi, if you take a look at it, the man has won a total of 7 Grand Slam titles for himself, and at a very young age. What do you make of these huge achievements for Carlos Alcaraz?
It's really incredible. At this age, I think about 23 now, so he's actually already gotten seven, and who knows how many he can actually get even before he retires. And so I just hope that he can actually break that record because 25 is something that is looking like impossible for everyone. But with the way he started, I think at this point in time, it's really, really possible that he can actually break that record because he's really started pretty well, and he's actually someone who's very consistent. And so seven Grand Slams already. He's won the Australian Open. I think he just needs to win it again to at least win at least twice of every Grand Slam, which I believe he can actually do that. And like you just mentioned, one thing about him, he's very, very versatile. He's not just getting success in the Roland Garros, like maybe his mentor really was actually very successful in. He's actually doing wonders in the grass, doing wonders in the hard court, and that just tells you how complete he is as a player. And so he's not just in one style of player or a one surface type of player. He's an all-rounder, and that's really what is really admired about Carlos Alcaraz. And I just hope that he can actually continue to break more records, especially that Grand Slam number 25 that is really, really hard for everyone to achieve at this point.
But do you think he has what it takes? You just talked about consistency. Can he achieve the feats we've seen for the likes of Novak Djokovic and that of Margaret Court? Do you see Alcaraz, of course, putting up that feat, winning up to, let's say, over 20 Grand Slam, or probably surpassing the record of the likes of Djokovic and maybe Margaret Court?
Yeah, absolutely. I think he, like I said, Carlos Alcaraz is here to stay. He's not just a one-season wonder. He's actually someone who has what it takes to succeed, has what it takes to beat everybody, and he's the only person who can actually stop the other very best player, which is Yannick Sinner. Yannick Sinner is also very much in line to also compete for titles and Grand Slams. But when you look at Carlos Alcaraz, he has what it takes to not just win titles, but to succeed in the long run, to be world number one for a very long time, to win all the Grand Slams possible. And if he actually goes on to win the Roland Garros and win the Wimbledon, he's definitely going to be holding all four Grand Slams, wins the next two Grand Slams, which is actually also going to be an incredible feat for him. He also is on course to win a calendar Grand Slam as well. And so there is nothing he cannot do at this point in time. I think that the sky is the limit for Carlos Alcaraz. And right now, it is only going to take a Carlos Alcaraz to defeat Carlos Alcaraz. Like he just mentioned also as well, he just won the Qatar Open, and in some easy fashion. I'm not trying to make light of Arthur Fields, the opponent, but Carlos Alcaraz really played phenomenal, and he has actually started so well. And so I believe he can actually continue, and I believe 25 Grand Slams might even be, a little bit of what he can actually achieve. He can even go to 30, or who knows, even break another record. So if he continues like that.
All right, let's see how it goes for Carlos Alcaraz. Can he win up to 30 Grand Slam? We'll give our fingers crossed and let's see how it goes. The man still has, of course, age by his side, and we'll see what he'll be able to do going forward. But talking about the Australian Open, of course, he won this year. Of course, he became the youngest man ever to complete a career Grand Slam, winning all four major tournaments, as it stands. So this, of course, was an impressive feat, for the man, Carlos Alcaraz, earlier this year after winning the Australian Open. It's really, of course, a very impressive one. I don't think we've not no young player, of course, young tennis player, in this era, have done this. What do you make of this feat for Carlos Alcaraz? And do you see any other young tennis player, maybe Yannick Sinner or anybody, putting up this record as well in this era?
I love the fact that tennis is becoming competitive in the sense that it's not just Yannick Sinner and Carlos Alcaraz now. We've got some players you can actually look at. We've got Jacob Menzik as well. We've got Jack Draper. I think the problem for this player I just mentioned is just the injuries that they've really been suffering. These are players who can actually compete as well. I saw what Jacob Menzik actually did against Yannick Sinner in the Qatar Open, and he didn't just defeat him, he actually played phenomenal tennis. And this is a surface where Yannick Sinner is one of the very best. And if these players can actually be more consistent and not get injured, I think they can actually rub shoulders with Yannick Sinner and Carlos Alcaraz. But for now, I think Carlos Alcaraz now is the man to beat, he's the man on fire, and he can actually go on to have one of the best years so far. I think 2026 has started pretty well for him, and so he can continue. But there are also players I'm looking at, especially Jacob Menzik and Jack Draper. These are two players that I believe if they actually step up their game and not get injured, they can compete with Carlos Alcaraz.
All right, let's see how this one, of course, will go down. And Talking about, those who can compete with him, just like you mentioned, Yannick Sinner, has been there. We've seen that tussle between him and Carlos Alcaraz. But this season seemed not to be the best for him. He has not really started very well. I don't know what you make of the rivalry between both players. Do you think, with what we're seeing, Alcaraz, will really possibly maybe achieve more than Yannick Sinner, taking a look at his shaky start so far this season?
Yeah, I believe when you put the both of them like side by side, Carlos Alcaraz overall has what it takes to outclass Yannick Sinner. I think in terms of skills, Yannick Sinner just has that firepower, and Yannick Sinner likes to be on the front foot. So whenever he's having a difficult game, I really find it difficult for Yannick Sinner to overturn a game when he's not playing so well. But for Carlos Alcaraz, he can make something out of nothing. And that's the edge that he has over Yannick Sinner. Yannick Sinner just wants to dominate from start to finish. Carlos Alcaraz can actually play so bad and still find a way to win. And that's just what gives him that extra edge. And of course, Yannick Sinner also he's also won some Grand Slams, but Carlos Alcaraz doesn't just win Grand Slams. He plays to entertain. Can actually do so many things on the court. He's there for the entertainment. Yannick Sinner is there just to be brutal all through from the start to the finish. And so that's just the difference between both of them. But injury worry is also a concern for Yannick Sinner because I think the last couple of years he's actually had some injuries, but he's actually been fit for a long period of time now. And I just hope he stays fit. But I think when it comes to health-wise, Carlos Alcaraz has that healthiness when it comes to tennis, and maybe that's what's just going to be the edge he's going to have over Yannick Sinner as well.
All right, let's see how it goes at this point in time. But let's take a look at the rankings and consistency for Carlos Alcaraz. First, he became world #1 in 2022 and has repeatedly returned to the top ranking since then. He finished as the year-end #1 at least twice. That was in 2022 and 2025, cementing his consistency at the highest level. And currently, he's still the world #1 in the ATP. What do you make of, that quest, that hunger of, always staying at the top? Talking about being #1, being the world #1 in the ATP for Carlos Alcaraz.
I think it's very important to show that you're actually the best in the world. Ranking is also a very important part of the game. And Carlos Alcaraz, this is not the first time he's actually tasted that. He actually finished the year as world #1, and he's also on course to continue in that fashion. And it's something that I'm really, really pleased about him. Being the world #1 is actually very important for him at this point in time. You don't want to be the second best player. He's actually won the first Grand Slam available. He's actually on course to also maintain that record because, of course, he's got the Roland Garros to defend. He's got the US Open to defend, and so these are points that he needs to defend in the long run. Some Masters title as well that he won last year, and these are points that needs to be picked up so that he doesn't drop off the peg. But I believe he actually has all it takes to maintain that ranking to be one for a very long period of time. Even though we've got Yannick Sinner and Zverev breathing down his neck, but I really don't see them catching him because when it comes to Roland Garros, he's always going to be favourite. Wimbledon is definitely going to be competitive for both of them. But US Open is something that is anyone's game. So Carlos Alcaraz is looking forward to at least winning the next 2 Grand Slams of the remaining 3, and I believe he can actually do that if you ask me.
And talking about the rankings as it stands, yes, he still stayed top, as world #1 with 13,650 points. Yannick Sinner is very close, seated second down there with 10,300 points. So if Sinner, of course, possibly wins the next Grand Slam, I think he will be very, very close in taking up that world #1. So at this point, Alcaraz needs to be on his toes, going forward.
Absolutely. We love the fact that it's almost going to be who's going to win the Grand Slam. Is it Yannick Sinner or Carlos Alcaraz? That's how tennis has actually been shaped the last couple of years now. They've shared the both 2 Grand Slams amongst themselves in the last season, and now Carlos are taking the first one. Sometimes you always assume that it's Sinner is going to take the next one, but we're talking about Roland Garros now, which is actually his favorite surface. This is where he's actually the best. This is where he's very dominant. This is where he actually came out of nowhere to win Yannick Sinner, actually being down by 2 sets and almost 3 match point. He saved that to shock Yannick Sinner, and that was like the greatest comeback ever, one of the longest matches we've seen in Roland Garros' history. And I really don't see Yannick Sinner upsetting him in Roland Garros. I think Carlos Alcaraz will successfully defend that title, which makes it even difficult for Yannick Sinner to overtake him in the world number one. But it remains to be seen what happens next. The Masters title, of course, the next two Grand Slams. I believe Yannick Sinner should get at least the hold of one or two of them. But it's really going to be a very competitive year for the both of them. But the long run, Yannick Sinner may not just be able to catch Carlos Alcaraz to the world number one again.
All right, let's see how it goes. Really getting interesting when it has to do with the ATP, of course. In tennis, Alcaraz, Yannick Sinner fighting for the top spots, and we look forward to see how it goes. But so far, so good. Alcaraz has been very, very impressive this season. 2 titles won already this season, and it's really been an impressive one, as it's time. But talking about the man as well, he won silver at the Paris 2024 Olympics in men's singles, reaching the final and highlighting his status on the global stage. He has expressed a strong desire to help Spain in team events like the Davis Cup, though injuries have occasionally affected, his participation down there. Talking about the 2024 Olympic Games, he was, in the final of that one against the man Novak Djokovic, but Djokovic actually took that one, of course, away from him. But what do you make of it? Do you think the man Alcaraz still have what it takes? Can he be that consistent, maintain his score, of course, to clinch this particular, one?
I think one good thing I love about Carlos Alcaraz is that he still has age on his side, so it's very much in contention that he can actually win an Olympic gold medal. I think he felt really bad not winning it, but if you ask me, I think Novak really wanted it more. I mean, that's the only chance they were able to get to win that Olympic gold medal. And Carlos Alcaraz is still young. He can actually still compete for the next Olympic. He can actually win an Olympic gold medal. I think he's got all it takes. If he's played on clay surface, which even favors him the more, because he's actually one of the very best when it comes to clay surface. But I think he's always going to be available. Carlos will definitely compete for an Olympic gold medal, just like Rafael Nadal and Robert Federer and Novak Djokovic. And I think he's going to be looking forward to at least winning that, to be able to say he has won it all. And I believe he still has age on his side. And let's see what happens in the next Olympics as well.
Talking about that 2024 Olympic Games, where we saw Djokovic and Alcaraz, of course, in the final, and Djokovic took that one ahead of him. Will you say it was as a result of, let's say, respect in the side of Alcaraz that made him not to get that one, or probably Djokovic was just very, very good in that encounter and better than him? Because why I ask that question, Alcaraz, we've always seen him pay much respect to Novak Djokovic at every point in time. What do you make of that encounter? He couldn't win that one against Novak Djokovic. Will you say it was as a result of him, of course, putting up that respect, or Djokovic was better on the day?
I think Novak really played beautiful tennis. I think I watched the highlights some weeks ago, and I really watched how Novak played, even at that very age. And I think it was just, there was this hunger in him. I saw the players actually dispatched even before he met Carlos Alcaraz. He played with so much passion. Carlos was also very good on that day, but I think sometimes it's all about who wanted more. And I think Novak knows that that's going to be the end of the road if he doesn't get it that day. He's not going to get another chance to win that Olympic again. So I think that was what played out in the end. Novak just wanted it more. Regardless of whether or not Carlos Alcaraz had respect for him, I think Novak was just much hungrier to actually achieve that feat and at least win everything, because if he didn't win it, then I don't think there will be any opportunity for him to win an Olympic gold medal again, and age is not longer on his side. So I think Novak just wanted him on that day.
All right, so let's take a look at, of course, his play style. Alcaraz is known for his aggressive all-court game, speed, tactical variety, and mental toughness in big matches, qualities that have made him one of the defining players for his generation. We'll talk about his current form. Alcaraz continued his dominant form by winning the Qatar Open, that's the ATP 500, convincingly, and maintaining a perfect start to the season, further extending his legacy as the world's top, player. Two titles already, Kelechi, this season. What do you think the season? What more do you think the season hold for the man Carlos Alcaraz?
I think I'm looking at him winning at least two more Grand Slams out of the remaining three. I think more Masters titles, maybe the Indian Wells or the Miami Open. I think he's going to get a hand on one of them, and maybe just one or two Masters titles. Even the ATP is also there as well. I think the ATP World Tour is where I'm really, really going to be interested to see how we can actually compete, because I think it's something that everybody wants to win. There's so much money involved in it, and you want to end the year on a very, very high. It's also there to be won. But I think generally you still expect Carlos Alcaraz to have a wonderful season. He started pretty well. I think he can actually finish pretty well as well.
All right, let's see how it goes for the man. Let's take a look at his personal life. We understand Alcaraz lives in Spain and maintains a disciplined, performance-focused lifestyle that balances tennis training with personal interests. Outside of tennis, he enjoys chess, a hobby he's used to sharpen. He used to sharpen his strategic thinking and mental focus. Alcaraz has often been described as humble, family-oriented, grounded despite his rapid rise to global fame. In 2004, he launched the Carlos Alcaraz Garcia Foundation, aimed at helping disadvantaged children through sport and education initiative in his hometown and beyond. And through his foundation and public voice, he has supported community efforts such as disaster relief and promoting equal opportunities for youths. Kelechi, what do you make of Carlos Alcaraz, life outside the tennis courts?
I think I love the fact that he started actually doing so well. Already being an inspiration, helping kids, also having an academy, being a philanthropist. This is actually good. He's actually a humble person. I think he's actually started well. I think he's really family oriented. He's close to the family, and these are actually good qualities. And it's not just about him being a good tennis player now. As a person outside the court, he's actually doing pretty well for himself, and it's something that people can actually take a leaf from and learn from. And when you consider all he's already doing and how young he is, it's actually inspiring. How many young players will be looking at being a blessing or extending a hand to other people? Not many actually have that vision, and he's already got that vision at this very age. Some people wait until maybe they're about to wrap up their career, but Carlos has really started pretty well, and it's really, really inspiring, and I'm really, really loving what he's actually doing and how he can actually be a better person to the society as well, not just making money or being successful, but being an impact to others as well. And it's really, really impressive what I've seen him do.
And talking about money, so for the most recent estimates in his net worth, Carlos Alcaraz, we hear, is reported to be in the range of 40 to 50 million US dollars. This man is very, very rich, Kelechi.
Yeah, absolutely. Money is not a problem for Carlos Alcaraz. I mean, at this age, he already got so much money to spend, so much money to enjoy, and that's one thing about sports. And when you win, you're definitely going to get money as well at the end of the day. So Carlos Alcaraz has got money, and I believe he can actually get more money. And if he actually continues like this, we can be looking at one of the top 10 richest tennis players, or even top 10 richest athletes in the world, if he actually continues to do what he's doing. And I believe that can actually happen with the way he's actually started.
He's not married, Kelechi. Before we wrap things up, he's not married. I hope when he finally gets married and start having kids, he's still going to be this consistent.
Well, yes, that's a very good question, because sometimes marriage can actually be a distraction, can actually change someone's focus, because, I mean, people love to pay attention to their kids and how they're faring, and you can actually have that division in terms of what you're chasing and what's priority for you. But we just hope that that doesn't really happen, because we want to see Carlos Alcaraz stay focused, stay consistent, win more Grand Slams, and actually be a very, very inspirational person to the generation. So I just hope that he actually picks the right wife. There's Ima Raducanu as well. We've been seeing rumors about both of them actually getting close together, but we never really know who's actually going to be his life partner. But whatever happens, let it be that he actually chooses the right person and he doesn't actually make a mistake in the end.
Won this morning with you, taking a look at the life of the man Carlos Alcaraz. Thanks for joining us, Kelechi.
Thank you for having me as well.
All right, Sports Personality will make a return next week, Saturday. You can go down to our different social media handle, Facebook, Instagram, X, and YouTube. The conversation continues right there. My name is Kingsley Manuel. Thanks for watching.